Hello, everybody. This is Chris Jerome of the Radical Independent Facebook page here with Corey Nathan, talking about some of the political issues that we're having today with the discourse and with polarization and stuff like that. So, Corey, thanks for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in things political and what kind of area do you focus on?
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. It's great to be with you, and I love what you're doing. It's these are important conversations. I've been having political conversations a good chunk of my life, but things really shifted into gear a number of years ago when I became a Christian. Frankly, I grew up in an observant Jewish family, became a Christian in my late 20s, and having I was having conversations about religion with my dad, but I was going to church and I found myself in political conversations. And the reason was a lot of guys I noticed that I was in a Bible study with or something, um, when something in scripture came at odds with what their political preferences were, they went with their political preferences. So there's a lot of difficult conversations around that.
Right.
Um, I was very drawn to I'm not trying to preach to anybody or evangelize to anybody, but it's just my own philosophy, theology. I'm very compelled by what's in the Bible, and even the stuff that, whatever, Fox News maybe is saying something different. There's
Right.
plenty of examples of that going on now. So fast forward to 2019, I got into the podcast space and I started another podcast in the entertainment and about a certain part of the entertainment industry. But this was always on my mind because doing the program that we do now, it's called Talking Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. It was just so necessary because I had my foot in very different worlds. You know, one world where there were a lot of people who leaned more to the left, one world, a lot of people leaned to the right. And they just not only did they not a lot of the folks in those ecosystems not know how to talk to each other, they didn't even know about each other. And what they thought they knew, they were often so wrong. So that's why we started that program. And now it's part of a bigger ecosystem, a bigger network. We have the democracy group that we're a part of, and we just started the Civic Renewal Network with other shows that are doing this kind of work.
Wow, that's pretty cool stuff. It's interesting that you kind of got in through it via religion. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. That's kind of somewhat unique, probably for a lot of people. But I could totally understand how you could see a lot of issues, maybe some hypocrisy, maybe some other kind of things going on there.
Yeah.
Mixing
Yeah.
the politics with the religion can, I guess, be pretty, I don't know, treacherous territory, I suppose.
It's the two things we're not supposed to talk about, and a
Right.
lot of people treat their politics as religion without realizing that that's what they're doing. So,
So, what you said you got kind of into things more seriously around 2019. What are some reasons you think things have become over the past 10 years, say, maybe a little longer, but why has talking about politics and what's going on with our discourse and the polarization and these different ecosystems that have a hard time communicating?
I think there's a lot of different things in our culture that you could point to that had a lot to do with that. Different ingredients that you throw into the mix. You can go back to the 80s. There was a certain rule for radio in
Yeah.
particular that was
Yeah.
removed. I think it was 1987, and all of a sudden you started seeing Rush Limbaugh, for example,
Right.
political radio, the equal. I forgot what it's called, the equal time doctrine or something like that.
The fairness
Um,
doctrine?
Fairness doctrine. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, shortly thereafter, you saw Fox News pop up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not blaming everything on Rush Limbaugh and Fox News, but that was just one element where you could have highly partisan political views being expressed, and then folks would gravitate toward what their preferences were, so that they weren't getting other points of view. They could completely stay within a certain ecosystem. Now, you could have arguments with this because you could say, I don't know, NBC, CBS, ABC, the three big networks pre 1987 were doing that anyway. But one has to objectively see that partisan radio it became a huge industry,
Right.
not just partisan based radio, but conflict entrepreneurship is now the de rigueur of a significant chunk of what you hear, not just on radio, but obviously podcasts and TV shows, YouTube channels. It Folks figured out that appealing to human beings' anger and fear is very effective it's literally like it produces a chemical reaction the same as if we were to take a hit of crack cocaine.
Right.
So people keep on coming back for more. They keep on getting angry. They keep on being afraid, and that develops into a hatred for this supposed them. It's
Right.
very effective, and it's only exacerbated with social media. The way that a lot of folks communicate, they're communicating about people and not so much going and bowling with somebody and actually hanging out with people.
Right.
So these are a lot of different ingredients that I've learned along the way that has something
Yeah,
to do with it.
that's something that I have mentioned with the fairness doctrine, some changes around that time period where you started to kind of instead of everybody kind of getting the same general information, we started to become much more stovepiped in that sense. And then social media, of course, just blew that up
Yeah,
completely, right? So
yeah,
now we arrange our lives, with this one identity. So
right,
where I eat, where the movies that I watch, everything's become so politicized now because of that. Because
right.
we've been divided in that way.
Yeah, the Whole
Um,
Foods versus Cracker Barrel. You know?
right.
Yeah,
So we got the problems.
yeah.
What's the way forward? What are you guys talking about in terms of how can we mitigate some of these issues or try to get bring people back together in some sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the frustration a lot of folks feel is I think a lot of folks, whether they're consciously aware of it and can articulate what these issues are, or maybe they're feeling mostly the frustration for this supposed other side. A lot of folks get frustrated and get involved in being a part of the solution because number one, they can't fathom the possibility, if you didn't vote for Trump, of the possibility of hanging out with somebody who did, right? So that's part of it, that we're more committed to our contentiousness than we are to the possibility of living alongside somebody who checked a different box than we did at the top of the ballot last election. So what can we do about it? Number one is, are we more committed to hating them or to a pluralistic democratic republic? In the bigger scheme of things, it's just identifying that, and to each his own. So if you're more committed to your hatred, like I can't, there's not much I can do with you. I have a conversation, an ongoing conversation with a good buddy of mine who, his biggest issue is own the libs. And my next question is, at what cost? At the
Right.
cost of the Constitution, at the cost of real friendships, at the cost of what, and how
Right.
do you define the libs? Anybody that just doesn't agree with you? So the the biggest answer to your question though is curiosity over contentiousness, or the way my friends at Braver Angel say it, curiosity over furious. More curious than furious.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So I'm just thinking along, going with what you said there. This fact that I don't even know if people are really arguing policy necessarily anymore. It's just the other side.
The
It is
other
that
side.
resentment, that contempt. They're a different tribe than me, so I'm just going to oppose them on whatever it is because these are my people and they're not.
Yeah, yeah. Folks there are some folks who say they're conservatives, but when I learned about conservatism, I learned about Edmund Burke and then G.K. Chesterton and William F. Buckley or Jack Kemp, as a legislator in recent history. But the actual issues themselves, a lot of folks who are calling themselves conservatives nowadays, they're not committed to the conservatism of Burke and Buckley and Jack Kemp. They're not even committed to the conservatism of Alex P. Keaton.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you can call a lot of what is happening in the Republican Party or on the right in general conservative. I mean,
Yeah,
the things have shifted a lot, and there's kind of an identity crisis, I think, going on there. And
yeah.
some
It's
people have
identity.
found themselves politically homeless. You see the
Yeah,
growth
that's
of
right.
independence. Not that they're all coming from the right, but just this
Yeah,
massive growth in independence. And I feel like there's sort of I've been on for 4 years. The page has grown decently.
Hmm.
Um, and this is Facebook, right? Not known for even-handed, moderate,
Yeah.
sensible, but I feel like there's an audience there. We see a lot of groups, a lot of electoral reform groups, a lot of people like you, me doing our thing, and I'm kind of pleased at the reception that I've got. It's grown. I think
Yeah.
people, in a sense, in a vague sense, maybe they know things are wrong. They know things are we're heading in the wrong direction. We got major issues, but they can't necessarily articulate it, and they don't see a way forward. They don't really see a way to get from here to there. It's one of the
So
biggest problems.
let me address that real quick. One thing I would encourage folks is you can't snap your fingers and change the entire world. But
Right.
one thing you can do is you can have one conversation with one person. And even in that conversation, if your expectation is you're going to, let's say for whatever reason, I know a lot of people I know and love who voted differently than me for president last time around. And that's fine. Uh, but I'm not going to sit down with that person with the expectation that I'm going to change their mind 180 degrees. But we can impact each other by 1 degree, right? And
Right.
what I've also found is that even if it's explicitly persuasion that I'm interested in that particular conversation, I am much more persuasive when I'm open to the possibility of arriving at a moment where I say, "Oh, I never thought of it that way."
Mhm.
Not that. Listen, I'm never going to vote for Donald Trump. And by the way, I voted for Republicans in the last election. I didn't vote for Republicans at the national level, but in my state and local elections, you know the so my ballot doesn't look one way or the other. I'm a purple guy, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't want to sit here and pretend that I'm, all in for every Democrat up and down the ballot. That's not even the point. The point is, can we figure out the vision of the founders of this American experiment? And
Right.
it's me being able to live alongside my neighbor who might have voted differently than I did, and knowing that he's a human being, that one vote, that one check mark that he made on his ballot does not define him. So can I sit with him and think of him as a full human being? So when I
Yeah.
enter into these conversations, I'm not preparing a great comeback. What I'm preparing is my own heart and my own mind to be open to that I never thought of it that way moment, and to
Right.
see and to really see someone. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
I've just my personal experience, my transformation, if you will, over the past 20 years or so. With the Radical Independent, it's a nonpartisan page, kind of moderate centrist if you're going to kind of try to, stick it on a line. Um, and independent oriented, right? Independent thought and independent candidates. But so I kind of piggybacking off what you just said. I have learned I'm not preaching. I'm not trying to change people's minds on politics. I'm not evangelical about any policies or anything like that. It's nonpartisan, and I feel like that the best way to change minds is preaching. It doesn't work, right? We know that the science says that, the surveys say that.
Yeah.
Um, but that long term building relationships, basically, right? You build a relationship, and over a period of time people start to think, oh, okay, I trust this person. I know they're not just trying to oppose me on everything. There's a relationship there, and they start to open their mind a little bit. They start to think a little bit differently, and you see gradual changes over time. Hey, that's great. That's kind of my philosophy. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
No one's. This is what you need to think, and this is or else, right? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
that's the partisanship, the emotional tribalism that the duopoly. I call it the corrupt rigged duopoly, but yeah, just building the relationships. And over time, being sensible, being reasonable, people might start to see things a little bit differently.
You know,
That's
to your point, I've become friends with a fellow named Jonathan Rausch. He's a great thinker. You might have read some of his stuff over the years.
yeah, I'm familiar.
John was very early in, at least in the early 90s, if not sooner. He was part of the movement that led to gay marriage becoming legal in all 50 states. And he said one of the biggest ways that they were able to overcome all of the obstacles in the way was they humanized it. And the
Mhm.
more people, instead of thinking of them and the issue and something remote like the gay agenda, whatever the hell that means, they thought of, oh, that's my nephew. Oh, that's my brother. Oh, that's my friend who I love. And when you can humanize as opposed to turn everything into an issue. And when you turn it into an issue and you dehumanize, you dismember people, from who they are as full human beings, that it's effective in terms of us versus them thinking, in terms of good versus evil type of thinking. But when it's my nephew, oh, then all of a sudden it's personal to me, and my guard is going to be a little bit, more open to different possibilities. So John said humanizing it was one of the biggest ways that they were able to get that over time.
Right. And it's just regular people, right?
Yeah, regular people. Yeah.
Uh, um, so there's you wrote a recent piece. It may have been a podcast, but I saw the written uh, portion on your Substack. The laughing emojis are a tell,
Oh, yeah.
and that hit home with me. On the Radical Independent, people post, thumbs up, heart, whatever, and but you get the laughing emojis, and it's not laughing like haha that was funny. It's contemptuous. It's kind of the equivalent of the eye roll, right? To ridicule somebody, a weapon.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
likes being laughed at, and so it shouldn't, but it kind of bothers me when I see that. I see someone put out a thoughtful post, just really putting some time and getting their point across, and someone just responds with a laughing emoji. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's
It
hardcore.
it is, because I know some of the people behind that laughing emoji, and I know they're capable of thoughtfulness. I know they're capable of empathy. And by the way, when did empathy become a bad word? You know, so it occurred to me, first of all, when it comes to these demonstrations, I supported, even though I strongly disagreed with the premise for why they were there, I supported with those who were peaceably assembled at the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th. Um, there is a distinction between the folks who were there exercising their First Amendment rights, free speech, and peaceably assemble, between the mob who broke off, marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and stormed the Capitol. I do not support that, but I do support those who were peaceably assembled um, on that day. Even though I disagreed, right? But that's when it's important to support those First Amendment rights. When we disagree, the folks who there was this famous case in the late 70s. There was basically neo-Nazis wanted the right to march in a town called Skokie, Illinois.
Right.
Skokie was populated by a lot of Holocaust survivors. They
Hmm.
did not want those Nazis to march. The people who defended the Nazis' right to peaceably assemble, march, and their right to free speech were not only lawyers from the ACLU, the lawyers from the ACLU who defended them were Jewish lawyers. And the
Right.
point they made was, as abhorrent as we find their views, we think that it's important to support their right to express them. So that's when it's important. So the idea, I got a long email from the pastor at the church I used to go to, who basically questioned my salvation for two reasons. One is I am not I'm not using enough condemnation for gay people, LGBT people, and two was he heard a rumor that I might be supportive of those No Kings rallies. So basically, I guess I should, wag my finger at I don't know, Nathan Lane and RuPaul a lot more, and he'd be more confident in my salvation, and I should condemn the people who are exercising their free speech and freedom to peaceably assemble if they disagree with my political views, and then my salvation will be okay. Like
That's
that's what I
insane.
don't understand. I don't
Yeah.
get it.
That's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, but with the emojis, it's like you're shutting down the conversation. There's nowhere to go from there, right?
yeah.
And talking about that free speech with the rallies and stuff like that, it's just so dismissive.
Especially for my Christian friends, the Jewish friends, Christian friends, there's a phrase that's repeated in the Hebrew Bible as well as the New Testament. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You send a laughing emoji, basically you're outsourcing all of that.
Yeah.
You just flattened your own humanity
Right.
because you've outsourced your heart and your soul and your own ethic to an idea, so that what are you doing? You think you're scoring a point in a rhetorical ping pong match?
Right.
Like I don't understand it. It does frustrate me. So if their goal was just to frustrate me, good, you scored your point. Congratulations, you get a
Right.
prize.
Right. Well,
What's next?
so much of the discussion, dialogue today, I don't think it's really to communicate anyways. It's just, you know, ego stroking, virtue signaling. So that
Yeah.
laughing emoji is just sort of a shorthand for I think you're an idiot. Well, for someone who's trying to run a page and want some reasonable discussion and proper discourse, and let's be serious and kind of sincere with ideas and what
Yeah.
we're doing here, it's a little frustrating.
So one quick note. One of my favorite comments was a buddy who has been supportive of the work that we're doing. I posted that essay, and he he responded with a laughing emoji, and then way down the list of comments, he goes, "Sorry, man, had to do it."
No
So
irony whatsoever, right?
yeah, I loved it. It was
Yeah.
awesome. So a well placed laughing emoji. I don't mind. Believe
Right.
me.
And I don't mean to say that everybody does it is some terrible person. I think people just kind of carelessly, throw it in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they should rethink that a little bit. I don't think that's going to improve communication and bring greater understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, unfortunately, I think our time's coming to an end. I love this discussion. I hope we
Sure.
can do it again
I love it, man.
in the near future. It's been great being able to chat with you. Really important ideas and topics. I mean, we just barely kind of touched the surface,
Scratch
I
the
think.
surface. Yeah.
But I want to give a shout out to your Substack and the name of your show again, talking about.
Talking
Uh,
politics and religion without killing each other. Easy to find
that's
at
great. Yeah, that's awesome.
politicsandreligion.us. Or, feel free to, check out the Substack or whatever. And I'm easy to find on all the socials. Corey S. Nathan, Corey, S is in Sam, Nathan. But Chris, more important, I'm glad, like, I feel like we're just starting to get to know each other. We've written to each other. Now we've talked. And I hope it's just the beginning of a long conversation. And maybe someday we'll hang out in person and have a beer or something.
Sounds great. Thanks for being here.